Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is dispute. Let's take a look at some of the definitions or ways that we can use this verb. The first way you might hear the verb dispute used is to mean to argue about something. A second way you might also hear this verb used is to mean to question whether a statement is true. As an example of this second definition, I hope this hasn't happened to you, but maybe you know of a friend or a family member whose credit card or debit card had been taken and someone charges something else. Well, you as the account holder can dispute that and say that wasn't me. I didn't buy that. I shouldn't have to pay or be responsible for that charge. You should know that dispute is a regular verb. Since this verb ends with an E, to make the progressive form, we're going to drop that E and then add ing to form disputing. The past tense and participle forms of this verb are made by just adding the letter D, since the verb already ends with an E. The base verb, dispute, ends with a T sound. So our past tense ending is going to make an id sound. Disputed, disputed. You'll be happy to know that I don't have any additional phrasal verbs or meanings for us to look at, and that's going to allow us to spend some more time reviewing the differences between active and passive voice. We've been talking about this all this week, so just as a quick review, most sentences in English are in the active voice, and that's whether you're listening to someone speak or you're reading. So these sentences are beginning with the person or the thing that is responsible for the action. Here are two example sentences in the future tense. Brad will wash the dishes. Caroline will eat lunch. Okay, so in both of those sentences, they're starting with the person who is responsible for the action. Brad is responsible for washing. Caroline is responsible for eating. Sentences in the passive voice, though, are going to begin with the person or the thing that is acted on or that receives the action. So the person who is responsible for the action may not be included in the sentence. Or if they are, they're going to come at the end of the sentence after the preposition by. You might be wondering, why do we use this passive voice? Well, many times it's used because the person who is doing the action isn't known. And a second reason people might use the passive voice is because whoever's responsible just isn't that important. And that connects to the third reason. So the speaker or the writer really wants to draw your attention as the listener or the reader to the object, the person or thing that is being acted on. So that's more likely to catch our attention when it's at the beginning of a sentence. So now we're going to practice using our verb of the day, dispute, in both the active voice and the passive voice. So these sentences are going to share the same ideas. They're going to have largely the same meanings. They'll just be in two different styles. We'll start with the affirmative. So today, as we make simple future sentences, we're going to focus on using will and then the base verb. That's how we do it in the active voice. And this is true no matter what our subject is. So here is an example of an affirmative active voice sentence in the simple future tense. Lawyers will dispute that interpretation of the contract. So this might tie back to that they're going to disagree or they're going to question how that piece of information is being understood. Okay? Now, I can change that sentence into passive voice. So the interpretation, or we can think of that as sort of like an understanding, that's what's receiving the action. So we're going to move that to the front of the sentence. So our passive voice affirmative sentence would look like this. That interpretation of the contract will be disputed. So I'm making passive voice, simple future sentences by using will, then be, and then the participle form of the verb. Okay. Now let's take a look at negative. And we'll start again with the active voice. To make a sentence negative in the simple future using will, all we need to do is insert not after will. And we'll continue to use the base verb right after that. So here's another example sentence. The losing candidate will not dispute the results of the election. Okay? So again, they're not going to disagree. They're not going to question whether they're true or valid. That's what this sentence means. So the results are what are receiving the action. So again, we're going to move that to the beginning of our passive voice sentence. And to make a negative passive voice, we're going to use will, not, be, and then the participle form of the verb. The results of the election will not be disputed. Finally, let's look at making yes or no questions. Again, we'll start with the active voice. To do this, we're going to start with will, then we'll have our subject, and then the base verb. Will the insurance company dispute the claim? Okay. Now, to make that passive voice, again, the claim is what is receiving the action, the arguing definition here of our verb. So that's going to come after will, and again, we're going to use be, and then the participle form of the verb. Will the claim be disputed? And again, with all of my passive voice examples here, I could have added by and then provided sort of the subject or the person or thing responsible for the action. Okay, so now I think we're ready to look at just a couple words that are related to our verb. And the first word we're going to look at is the noun form of this word. So same spelling, same pronunciation. As a noun, dispute means a disagreement. It could mean an argument, or it could mean a debate. Here is an example of this noun in a sentence. A group of teens got into a dispute near the food court area of the mall. I saw this sentence in a recent news article, and the noun form clicked with me since I knew this verb was coming up. So it means they got into an argument. Could have been just verbal. We don't know if there's a physical piece of this in this particular sentence alone. But that, I would say, argument is we could put in place in sentence. A group of teens got into an argument, and that sentence would have the same sort of meaning. The last word we're going to look at today is the adjective undisputed, right? And hopefully you're seeing that prefix un, that means not, right? Not disputed, not called into question, or sort of the opposite of that, we could just say something is accepted. Everyone believes it. Everyone is accepting, maybe another way to say it, of whatever statement or thing is happening. So how I have heard this adjective used a great deal is connected to the sport of boxing. Okay? And it sounds something like this. He is the undisputed heavyweight champion. So there is no question that this particular boxer is the best. That's essentially what that sentence or that phrase, undisputed champion. There's no question this person is the best. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.